Hello, this is Purple Sabbath, and this is the first time I'm doing a video of this kind. It's a product review, and in particular, we're going to be taking a look at the Ortofon 2M Red phono cartridge. So, I have a pretty long history with this cartridge, a long and somewhat rough history. This is a cartridge that I used to own years ago. I think I originally got one of these back in 2015. And at the time I had it mounted on a vintage Technics turntable. I don't remember what the model turntable that was. I want to say it was like the SLD 202 or something like that. But it may have been a slightly different model, but it was somewhere in that ballpark. And you know, I thought it was an okay cartridge, but I did have some problems with it. Fast forward 8 years, and I now have this cartridge in my possession again. Basically what happened was I was in a position where I was running out of cartridges. That is to say, I kept selling turntables, and I was putting some of my better cartridges on there. And I still had this old 2M Red sitting around, but I hadn't used it in years, and the stylus for it had actually broken. So I went ahead and decided to replace the stylus recently, and put it back on my turntable. I'm not using the same turntable now that I was back then, but you know, I was willing to give this cartridge another shot. I really was. I was willing to try it out again, see how it worked, and see if it was better than I remembered it. And sadly, it is actually worse than I remember it. And I don't think it's worth anywhere near this price point. That's why I'm making this video, because I want to basically warn people not to get it. Because I just don't think it's worth the price point. The price you pay for it is just not worth it. There are other cartridges that are cheaper that are just as good, if not better. Now, the 2M Blue, I did briefly have the 2M Blue stylus. I don't remember what happened to it. I want to say maybe the stylus broke on that one too. I don't know. I used to be really bad about about breaking the styli on my cartridges. I went through a lot of them. But here it is on, this is on Amazon.com. This is not where I got it. I got the replacement stylus from eBay. But I'm just showing the eBay list, or sorry, the Amazon listing here, just because this is the most mainstream platform for this cartridge, I would say. There are some little videos here. I haven't watched these. You can watch them on here for yourself if you really want to. That one's from Ortofon. Now, this is the entry-level cartridge in the 2M series. There is the red, the blue, the bronze, and the black. And I have had experience with these two, though I will say it has been a long time since I heard the 2M Blue, but I do remember it being a pretty good cartridge. And then there's the 2M Bronze and Black, which I have never heard, at least not live, but you can find, you can find on YouTube where people have taken audio from all four of these cartridges. It's not really the most reliable method of getting an idea of how the cartridge is going to sound, especially on your own setup, but, it's not it's a decent way of getting at least somewhat of an idea of what each of the cartridges sounds like relative to each other. So they have the specifications for each of them here. And they have little summaries here. So for 2M Red, they say, all-purpose cartridge that delivers open, dynamic sound. 2M Blue adds more dynamics and resolution, sounds more open. I can tell you that is very true, at least from what I remember. I haven't heard the 2M Blue in several years. I think I got that one in late 2016, so roughly a year after I got the 2M Red. But yeah, I do remember it having more dynamics and sounding a bit more open, so that is definitely accurate. The 2M bronze, even more resolution and details in an even-handed way. I can definitely believe that. It does use that fine line stylus, as you can see here. And then the 2M black is the best of the range, true to the groove. Well, considering how expensive the 2M black is, I would think so. Or at least I would hope so. Also, I like how they have the colored vinyl to correspond with the color of the stylus. I've noticed that they tend to do that. So they're just plain black vinyl for the 2M black. That's nice. Or I think it's just a filter. But anyway, you know, there's some extra, you know, information here. There's actually quite a bit of information on this page. It's pretty nice. There's the 2M red replacement stylus. This one's going for $86.99. I paid $70 for mine. So if you look around, you can find it a little bit cheaper than that. So let's go through the specifications of this cartridge. So it has an output voltage at 1 kilohertz, 5 centimeters per second at, it has 5.5 millivolts. That's the output voltage. Which, yes, it does have a loud output voltage. And if you're not used to a louder output voltage, then it might seem a bit brazen. Has kind of a bold sound. And I like that aspect of the 2M red. And the 2M blue has that as well. But it just sounds, the 2M blue just sounds a lot better. Frequency response, 20,000 hertz. Yeah, that's pretty typical. Compliance, dynamic, lateral, 20 micron, or I don't know what this even means. The compliance, dynamic, I don't know how they measure that. The recommended tracking force is 1.8 grams. And the cartridge weight without screws is 7.2 grams. Now, if we scroll down, I don't know if they have, no, here in the specifications, they don't mention it here, but on some websites, they include a specification for the tracking ability of these different cartridges. And the 2M red tracks the worst. The rest of these all track the same, though. The 2M red is rated at 70 microns, and the blue, bronze, and black are all rated for 80 microns, which is, you know, that's pretty good. It's actually impressive that this one and this one managed to track basically the same. Of course, keep in mind there is a difference in the tracking force, recommended tracking force on these. It's 1.8 for the red and blue. For the bronze and black, it is 5.1. Or sorry, not... Whoops, no, 1.5. 5.1 grams, that would be way too much. That would destroy your vinyl, probably. Especially with a Shibata stylus. Can you imagine that digging into your grooves at 5 grams? Digging into your record grooves, I should say. But, yeah, I can tell you right now, the biggest flaw the 2M Red has, at least to me, is its very poor ability to track inner grooves. And that's where that specification comes in handy. And they conveniently leave it out here on the Amazon page. Not that most people would really know what that means. It's a specification that I've noticed has disappeared. Most newer cartridges don't even list it. But Ortofon still does, surprisingly. Even though they tend to have really... When it comes to their lower end stuff, they always track very poorly. And this cartridge is no exception. It's so bad. It's got you can probably see it right here where my mouse is, but you can see the larger photo there. It has a bonded elliptical stylus, and bonded styli tend to sound a lot worse than the nude styli. Not always. Some of them sound pretty good, but this one, I think there's just a very poor quality control. So this is not a review of this cartridge, so much as it is a warning not to buy it. There are better cartridges in this price range. For only a little bit more, you can get Audio-Technica has a nude option. Let me go ahead and go back here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is the 95E. This one is cheaper. I used to have this cartridge too. I'm not sure what I did with it. I guess I lost it at some point. Cartridges are small, so they're easily lost. So I've had a lot of cartridges over the years, more than I really have known what to do with, to be honest. But yeah, this cartridge is decent. Now, the one I was trying to find was the nude version, because this one is just a standard bonded stylus. Let's see. Go back here. Dual moving magnet. Yeah, this is the EN. Yeah, this is it. And see, this is only $20 more than the 2M Red. Now, this cartridge is more recent, so, you know, like in 2015 when I got my 2M Red, this didn't exist. But yeah, this is a good cartridge. Or at least I would assume it is, because I haven't actually listened to it, but I've heard that it's pretty good because it's got a nude stylus, and considering the price, I imagine it's not, you know, amazing, but yeah. And here's a real review. It says a huge upgrade from the cartridge that came with my AT120. I can believe that for sure. Anyway, so going back to the 2M Red, this cartridge, I don't know, it just doesn't sound that great to me. So going back to it, you know, I wanted to give it another shot. One thing that I did do in an attempt to get better sound from it was I increased the tracking force, because it has a rated tracking range of 1.6 to 2 grams. And so instead of 1.8, I tracked it at 2. And I was still getting just as much intergroove distortion. And when I say intergroove distortion, I don't mean like, oh, it's a little bit distorted. No, it's really bad. And it does it no matter what album you're listening to. It's very indiscriminate when it comes to intergroove distortion. And it starts early, too. So it's not like the last song. It'll be the last 3 songs. Maybe the first song on the first side and the first song on the second side of the record sounds fine. And then the rest sound distorted as hell. And it is incredibly frustrating and just horrible to listen to. And there's certain records where it's so extreme that it's unlistenable. And, you know, this is a cartridge that if this was your first time ever hearing a vinyl record, you'd think, oh God, this is terrible. This is what this format's all about. And especially since this is a $99 cartridge, you would assume that this is going to be a good representation of how vinyl should sound. It's not. It's really not. You really have to go higher up in the range. So, like, you know, in my case, I could buy this stylus, the 2M Blue, but that's $159. I don't have $159 to throw at a stylus right now. I could save up, but I'm probably at some point in the near future going to get this. This looks like the more promising cartridge, because it's got the same nude stylus that the 2M Blue has, but it's way cheaper. The entire cartridge is $120. Just for the 2M Blue stylus, it's 100. What was it? What did it say? $159. Yeah. Now they've got the cartridge up here for $189, which is lower than list price. It's listed at $239, so they've got it cheaper here. and it's the Amazon's choice. And like I said, I had this at one time. You can actually see the difference in the stylus just in this picture. It's a nude stylus there, meaning that it doesn't have the bonding, like the cement. It's just a big chunk of cement is all it is. I mean, it's a tiny little thing, but when you're dealing with groove walls as narrow as the ones on a record, then yeah, it's gonna make a difference. It's a nice little photo of it in action. I like the look of these cartridges too. They have this nice kind of like striking look to them. I don't know what the consensus on that is. I've heard some people say that it's ugly, but I've always liked the look of the 2M cartridges. I especially like the look of the black one. Just, having an all black cartridge is really nice. So, all in all, I'm gonna say avoid getting the 2M red. This used to be. It's funny because I remember like 10 plus years ago. You can look up reviews on this cartridge from like 2011, 2012, 2013, and they're all pretty overwhelmingly positive. I even found a review recently of someone saying that it tracked pretty well. So I'm wondering if maybe the stock they had back then were just better, and the style that they've been making in the last 8 years or so have just deteriorated in quality, and there's a bad quality control issue with the styluses. I don't know. Oh, sorry about that. That's my AC kicking on. I'll talk a little louder. So, yeah, I just don't like this cartridge very much. I wanted to give it a second chance. I wanted to give it a go. Because I did have the inner groove distortion problem 8 years ago when I first tried it. And I remember replacing it very quickly. I think I replaced it with... I didn't get a 2M blue immediately. I think it was a... Excuse me. It was a Denon DL110, which... Let me look that up real quick. Oh, yeah, it's gone up in price for sure. $225, $238. Well, there's one for $200. That's not too bad. That one's $346. That's insane. No, you don't want to pay that much for it. But this was a great cartridge. Let me click on this. I remember this actually tracked very well. It's not quite as good as something like, say, the Microline stuff that Audio-Technica has, but I mean, it's a very good cartridge, and you can tell this is a vintage design too. This has been around for a long time. I think this first came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And what's nice about it is it's a high output moving coil cartridge. It outputs, I think, at like 2 millivolts or something like that, which is close enough of an output range to where you can just use it with a standard moving magnet preamp, and it's got a really nice design to it. It has a built-in stylus guard. That's what it looks like. But unfortunately, because you can't replace the stylus, I loved this cartridge and I played it to death, and it definitely started to wear out after a while, the stylus. So these days I can't really use it, but also, much like some of the other cartridges I used to have, I don't know where this one is. But yeah, I got this in 2016, so I got it, I want to say roughly 2 to 3 months after I got my 2M red. But yeah, it's a great cartridge, and much like the 2M red, it has a very nice striking design to it. It's a nice look. But yeah, you can't replace the stylus on these. You either have to get it retipped or buy a whole new cartridge. And it's hard to find, retipping services these days. Back in the day, it would have been easy. Or easier, I should say. I don't know how easy it is. So I take it back. These haven't gone that much up in price. Some of these listings are a little crazy, like $276. That's too much. But $228 is not too bad. And this one's $200. $20 shipping from Hong Kong. That's not too bad. $220. And then, yeah, there's the whole issue of, like, customs processing and additional charges. But, they're just... My point is there are better options out there. And yes, this costs twice as much, in this case, as the 2M Red, but it's well worth it. It's a much better sounding cartridge. It's a much cleaner sound, much more detail. And then this is going to be a better option too. Like I said, I think I'm going to pick one of these up probably in the coming weeks. Start saving up for that a little bit at a time. Shouldn't take me too long to save up for it. It's kind of tough right now though, because I'm also saving to buy a car. That needs to be my main focus, obviously. But anyway, and this one I have actually tried, but this one is not very good because it has the same bonded elliptical style as the 2M Red has. So it's similar in the fact that it's pretty bad with inner groove distortion. I don't think it's quite as bad, but it's pretty close. And considering the price similarities, I mean, I don't know if this would be worth getting. But if your turntable comes with it, I mean, yeah, go ahead and use it, I guess. Because this Audio-Technica has been shipping this out with some turntables. In fact, that's how I got mine. It came with mine. 4 years ago in 2019, I bought an LP120X from Audio-Technica. It's a pretty good turntable. Except for the goddamn dampening fluid in the arm dried up after less than a year. So I can't use the Q lever anymore. I have to place the cartridge, the tone arm down manually nowadays. Which isn't a huge deal, but it is kind of annoying. So anyway, going back to the Ortofon 2M Red, this is, like I said, the best review I can give of it is really just, don't buy it. It's not very good. It's overrated. It's honestly, I don't hear many good things about it anymore. It used to be a highly praised cartridge, and you just don't hear much about it anymore because it's just not good. It's so bad when it comes to tracking. You'll think there's something wrong with it. You'll think it's defective, but they're pretty much all like that. Unless you get lucky and happen to end up with one of the better styluses they have on hand, because I know they have some good ones. Because the 2M Silver stylus doesn't have that problem, and it's the same exact stylus, but they're just using a higher quality grade of bonded styli. That's all it is. And they're using better internal construction too on the inside of the cartridge body. Anyway, that is my review of the 2M Red. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.